Beneath the twinkling stars, the fans of Ash Heath chant his name together in a single powerful voice. As the crowd bowed down to the young king on his throne, they never saw the fear shaking him from the inside while he wore a cold, scary face. Just a few hours ago, he was staying up all night working at his mobile game company. He forces himself to stay calm and looks around, confused because the locals don't speak Chinese, yet he somehow understands them, and after piecing it together, he realizes he has traveled to another world. He reaches out to test his new body and is stunned to find that it moves so smoothly, as if it fits him perfectly. He notices that he shares the new body's name and starts to wonder if that's why he ended up here. But there's one big problem: he can't remember anything about Ash. Watching him, it became clear he must be a holy man whom the people hold in high regard. He can't afford to miss his chance, and his nerves are buzzing because he has no clue what to do next. He then gazes at Ash Heath's followers, waiting for him to speak. He convinces himself that his followers won't listen to his plea as a victim, knowing they'll punish him if he tries to explain. Right then, the followers keep chanting, begging the great Ash Heath to appear. As Ash's cult chants his holy name to save the world, different colors of light start to swirl around him. In a sudden rush, he drops to his knees to accept blessings from the beings around him. He is the mighty ruler of a billion glowing lights and fierce battles, whose courage and honor give him strength like no other. The master of snow, rain and fate, gives the angel of wisdom to the wise ruler who controls destiny, while the king of fairness and sharing bestows upon him a guardian angel who promises endless well-being. Finally, the king of all magic, love and happiness gives him a charm like no other. The endless power he receives begins to surge through him. He finally sees that being transmigrated into another world as a hero isn't such a bad thing after all. Soon he will be hailed as a hero chosen by 4 gods and loved by millions, saving the world from monsters and marrying a beautiful princess. His daydream ends abruptly as his supporters warn him that the mad hunters have already found their hideout, and now their very survival depends on him. He then sneers when he hears their enemies' names clearly, since they are truly the villains, just like their name suggests. He draws his sword and shouts at his followers to lead the way so he can finish off the enemy. Suddenly, a group of beautiful knights bursts in to challenge Ash to a duel. Ash feels a rush of power inside him, testing out the moves and names gifted by the gods, but he holds back to keep things low-key. He swings his sword and is amazed by the glowing space aura cutting through the air. But the hunters strike back with terrifying force, leaving most of Ash's followers dead in their wake. Ash is so shocked that the hunters' attack sends him flying through the air. Realizing he is just a small spark compared to the raging fire of his enemies, even with the 4 gods watching over him, Ash freezes in shock, suddenly realizing he just acted like a fool when he's really just a normal person from another world who knows nothing about this place. For a brief moment, he forgot that he was once a corporate slave beaten down by society and acted rashly. The hunter introduces himself as Gerald, a man from the Crime Hunting Bureau. He lays out Ash's terrible list of crimes, including the kidnappings, murders, robberies, and the dangerous. The man says, if you have any complaints, just stop by the front desk at the Kimon branch to file a formal one with the mayor's office. The hunter looks down at Ash with a sneer, telling him he made a big mistake by fighting someone like him, since he is unbeatable against his 4 double-winged chaos spirits. He then slaps handcuffs on Ash and shouts that he's now under arrest for leading the 4 Pillars cult. That day, he did the city a huge favor by finally locking Ash away. Later at the Crime Hunting Bureau, a staff member asked Ash questions. He gives the simple answers they ask, like his name and gender, but admits he has lost most of his memories and can't answer their other questions. Amy, another hunter, is furious that Ash is dodging her questions and treating them like fools. Another hunter steps up, claiming his level 1 interrogation license means he can force Ash to confess no matter what. Suddenly, Gerald jumps in and warns him to back down or else burn his license. He warns them to be careful with Ash because the Human Rights Act and the watching parliament stop them from hurting him, so a frantic Amy demands a memory mage to pull the captive's memories out. However, Gerald reveals that the memory mage won't come, even though their memory evidence is crucial for building the case. He explains that because Ash has seen the 4 pillars, his memories are safe from extraction since no cultist has ever survived it, noting that this memory corruption is the pillar's specialty and was even used 144 years ago to turn a memory mage into a believer, which caused the cult to grow stronger and rise from the ashes. Furious, Amy demands a way forward since they're stuck with no witnesses and no memories to pull from the case. Gerald tells her that Ash deserves a slow death instead of a fake interrogation, reminding her that the whole city will act as the jury at the public trial on the 15th at 8 p.m. But Amy, fed up with the farce, storms out and declares she's done watching. Meanwhile, in the interrogation room, Ash gets a 15-minute break every so often because of the Human Rights Act. Gerald watches Ash quietly and realizes he's telling the truth, acting like a man who has lost his memory because he panics, gets confused, and is scared. He thinks that under the Human Rights Act, anyone losing their memory might be forgiven and not punished by law. And if the memory test confirms Ash lost his mind, they'll let him go innocent. But in the end, they can't find a memory mage, so the only choice left is to let the townspeople decide Ash's fate. Ash wonders what things would have been like if he had been reborn as a hero instead of a cult leader who instantly got swarmed by a whole group of heroes the moment he arrived in this new world. What a terrible luck it was for him to be sent to another world right when the hunters were about to catch the evil cult he led. He remembered the evidence shown during his interrogation and nearly vomited at the sight, proving that the cult leader's body really belonged to the vicious killer. He then wonders how they will put him to death, still thankful for the kindness he received during his questioning and hoping they have finally gotten rid of capital punishment. All of a sudden, his neck burns hot and a system message tells him he's been invited as a special guest to the Blood Moon Judgment. Though confused, he starts typing his reply, only for the system to stop him by saying he is under arrest and being questioned, so he can no longer send messages. He suddenly understands that he can control the messaging system with his mind and that it looks just like a smartphone. But now every feature is locked up tight and the app is useless. Just as he's about to shut it, he spots a single working app named Aurora's Sorcerer Manual. He is shocked to see the name because it is the mobile game his company created in his original world. He recalls steering his team through the game's planning and operations. After downloading the demo and staying up all night, he suddenly found himself transported to a new world. Knowing it could be a key, he drags the app to his home screen and treats it like his ultimate cheat code for this new life. Next, he opens the app and is instantly flooded with warning signs. With no connection, he was about to give up until a message arrived saying the search system was working fine. After looking into it, we found that only the gacha and top-up systems actually work. He then presses both active buttons and is led right to the top-up screen. But he's broke, so there's nothing he can do to change the game. He tries one last time, but the game still demands payment, reminding him that his own company made it. Just as he quits, the system snaps back to life and he gets checked in. He then finds a special crystal that lets him search 10 times for a user and promises he'll find at least one every time he uses it. Desperate to avoid a fatal verdict, he prays for a powerful guide, only to sigh in frustration when the mighty Berserker Sword Maiden proves just as hard to use as any other beginner. He then spots another operator, checks him, and is shocked to realize the character Flash standing there is actually himself. He realizes the game is talking to him and lets him share power with others, so when he trains the Berserker Sword Maiden to get stronger, he grows too, giving him a chance to finally escape the prison. He looks over his supplies and decides he's found the perfect gear to train his operator. Then he realizes that the trainer's mood just makes or breaks the training results. The happier the character feels, the stronger their power becomes. Even though he is facing execution, he must still watch over the girl's feelings and keep her life balanced. Once the girl's mood was lifted, he added the Berserker Sword Maiden to his Sorcerer Manual, and right then, her training in the game began. Ash tries to wait, but the exhaustion from the day's events overtakes him. While Ash sleeps, a young girl in a time zone 3 hours behind him drifts into a dream after her early bedtime skincare routine. She stands before a man with a sharp sword stuck right through his chest. Sonia takes a sip from the lake and finds it sweet, which tells her she must be dreaming. She can't stop wondering who the dead man in her dream is and why he's there. She then pulls the sword out of him, feeling like it was made just for her. Just then, the dead body wakes up and stands slowly, which scares Sonia until he introduces himself as the final observer to calm her down, but moments later, a creepy smile spreads across his face as he promises to kill her. She has just 3 days to defeat him before she's trapped in the dream forever. Sonia braces for the blow as the final observer slashes his sword and strikes her instantly, then tells her she has 10 seconds to rest, leaving her stunned and confused because she feels real pain despite seeing no wound on her body. Watching her look confused, the last observer tells her they are both dreaming and that her 10 seconds are up. He slices her once more and shouts that she has 10 more seconds to catch her breath. With her sword too far away, she leaps into the lake, hoping the watcher can't follow her down. Underwater, she holds her breath and swims away from her enemy, who thinks her escape is a shameful and useless act. She begins to gasp for air and barely breaks the surface to catch her breath for just a moment. Even so, the observer manages to sever her by tossing his sword and striking her beneath the waves. She touches her jaw to check that it hasn't fallen off. As he stood there mocking her for failing to learn her lesson after dying in his hands so many times, the observer watched her. Seeing his smug grin, Sonia grew so angry she dropped to her knees and begged him to let her live. Her eyes overflow with tears as she begs him to stop hurting her and promises to do exactly as he says. But the observer smirks and tells her he won't be happy unless she can beat him. Feeling hurt, she storms at him and shouts why he wants to kill her for no reason at all. She convinces herself that there are plenty of evil men for him to take his revenge on. She claims she's just a helpless girl who knows nothing, but the observer says she hurt him before and attacks her again. As Sonia tried to rest, she wondered if hiding in the dream for 3 full days would finally let her get out of her mess. The observer nods in agreement, yet he warns that 72 hours feel like forever and wonders if she can keep surviving her death over and over again while still trusting his words, despite him killing her again and again. Even if she makes it through tonight, there's no promise she'll make it through tomorrow. He grabs his sword once more and warns her that now that she has faced death, she should stop expecting miracles. In a flash, the observer lunges with his blade at her, but Sonia surprises everyone by blocking the strike with her own sword. Sonia keeps getting beaten over and over, so before her next fight, she thinks about the legendary swordmasters. Their relaxed swings were so powerful that they made everyone terrified. She convinces herself that the observer isn't a swordsman like the others, which means she might still have a chance to beat him. The cut she made on the observer magically sealed itself up. Sonia smiles, knowing the dream has left her no other choice but to move on. She charges into the fight, blocks the observer's expected opening strike just as she predicted. While Sonia counts to 5, the clash of many slashes erupts around them. Just as she turns 5, she makes a sharp swipe, but the watcher manages to dodge it. Her wide stance leaves a gap for an attacker to slip through. Sonia smiles as she sees it coming and dodges it with a quick sidestep. As the target swings through the air, Sonia spots her chance to strike him down. She says that she has finally learned his tricks because she has died at his hands so many times. She unleashes a strike so strong that it flings the viewer backward until they crash into the wall. The massive wound the observer takes heals in an instant. Sonia wonders if striking him means he's lost, and the watcher confirms it while praising her. She lets out a breath of relief, only for the observer to remind her that she still has to defeat him while he holds 2 swords. He snatches up another sword and steps into a 2-blade fighting stance. He calls out that the real second half has started and warns her that there won't be any 10-minute breaks this time. Sonia wakes up feeling drained after someone calls her name, only for her roommate Ingrid to tell her it's already 7. Sonia whispers that she just woke up from a terrible nightmare. Ingrid doesn't think it's a big deal and heads off to class anyway. Sonia finishes her morning routine and heads off to class. She sat among the crowd of students in the lecture hall, all watching the professor up on the stage. As she scribbles down her notes, she wonders if the whole encounter with the observer was just a dream. She recalls how, right after she finally beat the observer, he whispered that her real life was just starting. Sonia vows to stay in charge of her own life, while Ash suddenly wakes up in his fancy room inside the broken lake prison of Camion City. Confused by his exhaustion after a full night's rest, he checked his empty screen and saw a message from the Sorcerer Manual game saying his bond with the Berserker Sword Maiden had grown stronger. He didn't expect that getting trained together would make their friendship stronger. He is happy that he has already planned out her day and wants his Sword Maiden to keep training hard. Meanwhile, Sonia's chest aches, yet she stands tall with a bright smile to answer the professor's question. Students were amazed when she got the hard question right. Even a boy whispered about her beauty and brain, but first she told manga readers that she came from a small village, finished her basic schooling to get into Swordflower University, and was the only one from her hometown to do it in 20 years. When she first walked onto the school grounds, people whispered about her country look as she passed by. After a month, she mastered makeup, styled her clothes, perfected a city accent, and became the standout student she is today. While her good looks landed her several part-time jobs and made her very popular, she got busy with lots of school activities and threw together many parties, soon becoming the school's biggest star. As she strolls across the campus, she remembers her very first steps onto the grounds and how innocent she looked back then. She steps out of the campus gate to search for someone. She finds her mother and gives her the name Linda. The daughter can't wait to show her mom the city, so she takes her on a train ride. As they ride along, Sonia points out the same clean streets, tall skyscrapers, and shiny luxury cars she saw the first time she landed there. She remembers feeling completely overwhelmed by the well-behaved people around her and the endless billboards flashing ads day and night. Sonia watches her mother glow with joy at the city view, remembering how her mother raised her all alone after her drunk and violent father passed away. She remembers how her mother did all the hard farm work just so Sonia could have all the time she needed to study. Sonia feels blessed that while other kids stay trapped in factories in their tiny hometown, she gets to show her mom all the wonders of the city and make sure she enjoys every single moment. Sonia leads her to a food truck and then to a clothing store where she offers to buy her mom a new dress. She took her mom to a fancy restaurant, but her mom didn't want to eat there. Later, they sit on a park bench munching snacks right beside the fountain. Sonia walks with her mother to the train station to see her off on the trip back to their little town. Just before she goes, Sonia asks her to stay one more night, but her mother says no because she doesn't feel comfortable in the city. Tua promises to take her back to the city one day and treat her like royalty. Her mom squeezes her hand and whispers that she believes in her and knows she can do it. She tells her daughter that no matter what life throws her way, she can always head home to find a warm meal waiting for her. She whispers to Sonia that the city is too tangled and that she'd be wiser to pack up and settle down for a quiet life back home. She hands her daughter a bag of cash, explaining that she doesn't need to spend any money back home anyway. As the train picks up speed, she reassures her daughter that everything is going fine. Sonia looked inside the bag and found candy tucked right along with the other things. Right as she tucks the cash into her side bag, a man steps up behind her. The man takes out a tiny razor and slices a hole right into the bag. Sonia slices the man's hand, causing him to let go of the razor. Sonia doesn't even look at him before walking out of the train station. She walks into the heart of the busy streets to watch the city lights and crowds, knowing that this chaotic energy is exactly where she fits in. It's past curfew, but Sonia is begging the university guard to let her in. She finally managed to get let in after trying to make him feel sorry for her. As she strolls across the campus with a confident smile, she knows her beauty is the key that unlocked her spot inside. She realizes that beauty is power in their world, and thanks to hers, she has managed to slip into high society. As she climbed the stairs to her dorm, she quietly thanked her mom for the genes that let her fit in. As she walks toward her dorm, she overhears a roommate complaining that Sonia is so late because she's probably flirting with some rich guy. Sonia presses her ear to the door to catch every word her hateful roommate says about her. Later, the girl inside tells us she saw Sonia with her mother outside the campus, guessing that the mother must be ashamed of her daughter. Sonia's anger flares, and she grips the knob, ready to turn it and face them. Right as she's about to move, a loud clang suddenly silences the talking girl. Ingrid swings the door open, gives a warm good evening to Sonia, and walks out. Sonia peeks inside and spots a brand new bruise on the punching bag tucked near the door. She figured out that Ingrid had punched the object just to silence the gossipers. Only her roommate Lois and her tiny lapdog Adele were left in the room. Sonia tells us that Lois, the daughter of a local merchant, constantly makes passive-aggressive insults about her background. Sonia remembers that men always pay her more attention than Lois, even though Lois insists she is the more beautiful one. As Sonia took over the big event, Lois's hate for her just kept growing deeper. Afterward, Lois always planned parties for the water magic students and treated them to fancy meals, but he always made sure to leave Sonia behind. Because of these tricky social moves, more guys started chasing Lois until she ended up with a senior who then tried to win her over. Sonia bumped into the guy on purpose, making him chase after her. She turned away the senior, knowing Lois's pride would never let her chase a man even a country bumpkin wouldn't date. In Sonia's head, she saved Lois from trouble by steering her away from a boring guy. Sonia dreams of finding a man who can pull her into high society. To reach her goal, she plans to become a water sorceress, since her studies prove that water sorcerers are the most likely to marry nobles. She intends to lean on Swordflower University's famous track record for training the best sword, wind, and water magic users to graduate as a top-tier water sorcerer. She dreams of meeting a nobleman to introduce her to his mother, having chosen to skip the sword sorcerer path because she thinks being strong and muscular puts women at a disadvantage. She dreams of calling her first water spirit by next year and growing her silver wings strong enough to fly as a sorcerer before she even graduates. Then she will stumble upon a campus event at Truth University, where she meets a young nobleman. She says that Truth University is the top school in Galaxis, where everyone is rich and powerful, making it the perfect spot to find a boyfriend. While she studies and takes off her makeup, she dreams of using her wealth and beauty to marry a nobleman and lift her mother into high society. Suddenly, a voice startles her, urging her to concentrate on her sword practice. She spins around to find the voice's source and spots the observer standing there. He tells her to just speak to him with her thoughts. Sonia glanced around and realized that Lois and Adele couldn't spot the Watcher, even though the man was standing right beside them. The Watcher leans in and tells Sonia that he's not out to get her. He hands her a bottle of green liquid that he insists she must drink, but Sonia refuses outright, saying there is no way she will take a sip. As the observer tips the fluid onto the ground, it refuses to spill and magically shoots straight into Sonia's throat. The drink gives her the strength to stand, and the observer hands her a wooden sword, urging her to practice. She keeps saying with a determined look that she won't do it. But then her clothes suddenly fasten themselves, she snatches up her wooden sword, and she bolts out of the room. As Sonia strolls down the hall, she overhears Lois grumbling about how she must be trying to hit on a senior who studies sword sorcery. Sonia steps into the sword hall to find trainees like the already sweaty Ingrid, who is so confident she'll hit the 10th ring and summon her sword spirit by next month. She holds back her pride and reminds herself that she must work hard to get better. Sonia steps into the room, and every sword fighter stops what they're doing to stare at her. As she walks by, they pause to wonder why she is at the training grounds. Sonia swings her wooden sword and hits a dummy. Ingrid notices her own movements are still shaky and slow from her technique. Ingrid thinks that female sword sorcerers need rough hands and strong muscles to grow stronger, and she wonders if Sonia is ready for that. She then wonders if Sonia is just fishing for a boy, but realizes her real target must be Felix, the sword magic apprentice from the powerful Voslata noble family, watching her train right now. She remembers that his father, Duke Voslata, runs the most advanced steelworks in the whole of Stellaris, making him one of the nation's most powerful figures. Ingrid worries that Sonia is chasing a player, but she's still thrilled to find another friend who loves swords. She keeps watching Sonia practice on the magic dummy and sees that she has already knocked the first ring of the center target off in just a few minutes. Ingrid notices that even though Sonia's movements are rough and tiring, she is following the sword magic manual exactly. She fears that if Sonia keeps going like this, she'll be completely drained in just a few minutes. She begins counting Sonia's hits so she doesn't lose track. Ingrid has long since lost count of the hundreds she's done, and now her eyes are locked onto her friend's practice. After a while, everyone in the training hall stared at her in awe, guessing she'd taken over 2,400 hits in just 90 minutes. Cecilia walks into the room expecting everyone to be around Felix for some big reason, but instead she sees him staring hard at Sonia, and she knows he can't look away. Cecilia gazes at Sonia, convinced she is wearing makeup just to catch the attention of boys. She's scared that Sonia is showing off her sword skills just to mess with Felix, so she plans to grab her boyfriend and run away fast. Sia wonders why everyone's staring at Sonia. Felix tells her that Sonia, who arrived just over an hour ago with no sword skills at all, can now slice through 9 rings with a single strike. Celia wondered if she had just been pretending to be a beginner. Felix nodded, saying he had thought the exact same thing and kept an eye on her practice to spot the moment she would start to struggle. He confesses that after watching her for 90 minutes, his doubt has vanished and replaced by true admiration. Cecilia feels threatened because a girl can grab Felix's attention so easily. She quickly realizes that trying to train for an hour and a half in one go just isn't possible. She realizes that even Felix can only train for 3 hours at a time, and he needs to take breaks. Celia looks up and watches as the men, who usually only focus on their own training, stop to shout encouragement for Sonia as she keeps hitting the dummy. Celia lets go of Felix's arm, thinking she has lost the game to Sonia, and then Sonia finally hits the 10th ring on the target. All eyes are fixed on her, holding their breath in eager anticipation. When the 10th ring strikes, Sonia's dummy breaks apart into pieces. The crowd erupts in wild cheers, and finally, Sonia gets some rest. She sees that she is finally close enough to call a sword spirit to her side and take flight as a sorcerer. She can't believe her dream of a worry-free life is finally right around the corner. Ingrid hands Sonia a glass of water, and right away she feels the cool liquid rush down her glances around, spots Felix, and notices someone watching from behind him. He dumps the bottle of drink on the floor, just like last time, but the observer says she can't relax yet because she has to beat Felix first. The observer whispers to Sonia that he only wants to set up a fight between her and the toughest person in the room. He is thrilled that the toughest guy he's ever seen is a noble, because he absolutely loves watching nobles get knocked out. No asks to swap to someone else because she doesn't want to get caught up with Felix. She tells us that Felix is a playboy at Swordflower University. She always remembered him in his fancy car, swapping lovers every 3 days. In her notes, she jotted down that Felix has a strange habit of collecting women. She also thinks it's fishy that the Duke of Volslada's son went to Swordflower instead of Truth, which suggests he must have gotten mixed up in some political trouble. She tells the observer that she thinks Felix is a villain, but the observer disagrees, believing it would be perfect for her to face someone just like him. He tells her to shatter the sword prodigy's blade and shove the Stellaris noble aside. Even though Sonia promised she'd never do that, she still aimed her wooden sword at Felix and dared him to fight. As the crowd goes wild, Cecilia fumes in secret, convinced Sonia is playing games to keep Felix close, while Sonia silently repeats to herself that she will never have to face him again. Her body still holds her sword pointed at him, but Ingrid reminds Sonia she's too tired from 2 hours of training and suggests they fight again tomorrow. Felix demands they fight right now, claiming she is the most talented fighter he's ever seen, and the only one besides a few others who makes him feel afraid. He thinks that by waiting until tomorrow, he'll be too scared to lift his sword against her. Felix drew his sword, pointed it right at Sonia, and vowed to beat her that night, while everyone noticed he was using the special wave sword fighting style. Sonia remembers that the Volslada family is legendary for their 4 secret sword stances that call forth spirits, and the wave stance is one of them. Sonia shifts into her fighting pose but tells the observer there's no point in beating Felix if he's just taking over her body, so she makes a deal to get her body back so she can find someone else to fight. The observer reveals that he was never in control of her body at all, which shocks her. She explains that she practiced with her sword alone after dreaming last night that she defeated him, which made her realize her true talent. He realizes she pushed herself to the absolute limit in the training hall just to prove to Ingrid and the others that she has real talent worth being proud of, beyond her looks. Sonia rushes at Felix, and as they trade blows, the observer reminds Sonia that she challenged the boy herself because she hated him from the start for being everyone's favorite at school. Felix sees his opponent as tough from how she moves, yet he keeps pushing forward, sure that his wave sword style still has her beaten. His flurry of hits pushes Sonia backward, and as she stumbles, the observer warns that no matter her skill, Felix remains unstoppable thanks to his wave stance. He pumps her up by warning her that some people are born with it all, and will easily outshine her. She follows Felix's every move, leaving him to wonder where she finds so much energy. Felix decides to stop the brawl and gathers all his strength inside. As the room fills with light, the observer tells Sonia that she grabbed her wooden sword, walked willingly to the training grounds, and challenged the strongest person there just to prove she was just as good as anyone else. Right then, everyone gasped in shock as Sonia suddenly copied Felix's waving pose. The crowd is amazed that she copied his stance after only watching it, while Cecilia suspects Sonia plans to humiliate Felix so she can lose on purpose, promise another fight, and get closer to him. With both opponents charging for the final move, a loud crash echoes as Sonia's wooden sword snaps and shards fall to the floor. The crowd stares at Felix's left shoulder, where a wave-shaped sword spirit appears. He was amazed to see him call upon his eternal spirit right in the middle of the fight. Ingrid gives Sonia a boost, promising that she too will be able to call forth a spirit in no time. Sonia insists she didn't lose, but the crowd thinks she's just being stubborn, and right then the tip of Felix's wooden sword snaps off too. Suddenly, a wave sword spirit materializes on Sonia's right shoulder. The crowd was stunned that she not only copied Felix's wave stance in the middle of fighting, but also called forth a spirit right away. After years of hard work to master the sword, the students feel discouraged when they realize they are looking at a true genius, so Sonia gazes into the crowd and spots the observer watching her. She wonders if he is just a shadow of her own mind, a trick of her imagination. The observer bends down to grab the broken piece of the wooden sword from the ground and clicks it back onto Sonia's blade. As he fades away, he playfully challenges her to guess who he is. Sonia gets so mad she starts cursing him, while Ash watches his hollow screen light up with his Berserker Sword Maiden leveling up to unlock new moves like the Wave Stance and Wave Sword Spirit, and he thinks that the One-Wing Sword Sorcerer title means having more wings gives you even stronger powers. Seeing how much his Sword Maiden has grown makes Ash feel that getting up at 6 AM is totally worth it. Checking her progress was worth it, even though leveling up didn't make Ash feel any stronger. He feels ripped off by the game, suspecting that since he hasn't paid a dime, the company is playing him because their other games only work if you spend money. The prison's robotic voice tells Ash he is finally free to wander into certain parts of the place. His door swung open, and the computer was practically begging him to head to the cafeteria for a bite. Ash brings up the Broken Lake prison manual on his screen to figure out what's happening. The way the manual describes these prison perks makes him feel like he's being played for a fool, because everything seems too perfect and he can't stop wondering if he's been tricked. He slowly stepped out of his room to take a look around. The empty hall, with no guards in sight, makes the fear feel even worse. He dashes to the end of the hall and finds an indoor park where a group of inmates are hanging out. Ash feels a wave of relief when he spots a prison guard resting on a nearby couch, knowing he now has someone to call for help if trouble strikes, especially since his Sword Maiden hasn't given him any XP yet and he feels he needs that extra protection. Feeling safe again, he walked over to look for the cafeteria. He watches a politician speak on a big screen while orc and goblin prisoners get lost in a conversation about high-level politics. An inmate walks up to Ash and says he knows Ash is the big leader of the Four Pillars cult because he's seen Ash everywhere in the news. Igor reaches out a hand to shake and asks Ash to come along with their plan to get away. Ash grabs the offer with both hands and jumps in without a second thought. Right as they're about to shake hands, a woman warns Ash that if she were him, she'd punch Igor right in the face. Ash stares at the woman and freezes, stunned to find she looks and sounds just like his Sword Maiden. As Ash lunged to punch Igor, a chip on his neck suddenly lit up, stopping him from hurting a citizen. Red alarms screamed endlessly in his mind, but his fist froze just an inch away from Igor. He was frozen in place while the young man laughed at his weak punch. Seeing that he is happy enough in prison, his friend gives up and walks away to leave him alone. Finally, the newcomer could move again. She laughs at him and asks why he looks so surprised. She told him how the chip saw what he was planning and turned his attacks into nothing. Even though fighting and magic are banned there, people still find the tech super handy and can pull off all sorts of clever tricks. For instance, Igor acts like a succubus by sealing a deal with a spirit just to accept a friendship offer, which is essentially him promising to serve. In other words, shaking his hands earlier would turn him into his slave, which is even worse than the old world where labor contracts were needed, so Ash wonders if the other people there can't see her. He can talk to her all he wants, but it would look like he's crazy if he's just talking to himself. He doesn't care about that, keeps talking and finally admits she is the Sword Maiden. She felt a doubt creep in, wondering if she should question his identity as the observer, yet she knew the answer because she had seen him. They began arguing over how they didn't look like their character art, but it makes sense that they change clothes sometimes. Ash wrongly asks for help to escape, only to be rejected by the Sword Maiden, who mocks his uselessness and suggests he could just leave to live his dream life, while Ash insists he was framed and must face judgment, but she laughs at him, pokes his forehead repeatedly until he collapses onto the couch, and demands to know exactly what he is to her before letting him finish his sentence. She pressed her face near his, gazing down as she asked if he was about to call himself her master. With a frown on his face, he wonders if what he did was really that wrong. She's only a character in a game, and if he stops playing she will disappear forever. His words make her face turn darker, and he has no choice but to clench his teeth and take it. Ash shouts that he is neither her master nor her servant. If she can't treat him like an equal, she might as well go back to being just data, and as the Sword Maiden stares at him, her frown melts into a knowing smirk before she turns away, revealing she's nothing more than a virtual character born from his mind. But he had to keep in mind his own words that he would never become her master. The young man is warned that if he ever lies, he will be cursed to lose his face for 10 years. After the slightest pause, he nods and gives his word exactly as he was asked. She smiles with happiness and calls out to him to talk as they walk together. Instead of running away, they'll just eat breakfast since he's so hungry, but she can't help him because she's invisible and can't touch or change anything in the real world, leaving her wondering how she could possibly help him get out. She's standing there just because she's both her sword maiden and her observer. Finally, the time came to swap in the XP he'd earned from endless force training, and he threw his arms wide with pure joy to take it all in. She scolds him yet again for foolishly thinking she can just give away what she worked so hard for. Ash doesn't know how to get it, so he's told to just fight people and let the power fill him naturally. He scans the room with excitement, quickly spots a target, and finds the perfect place to aim. Lang has a tough look with tattoos and scars that make him seem like he's fought and survived hundreds of battles. The young prisoner desperately begs for it, then knocks the man's glass of milk all over his head before shrugging and apologizing with no care at all. Even though he started it, the dark power inside him makes his hands shake with fear. To his shock, the rough-looking man kindly warned him to be careful and suggested trying the cafeteria's milk. With slack-jawed shock, Ash does as he's told and grabs his lunch tray. He sits at the table with his food, then a loud mean laugh makes him freeze. The Bakyoed maiden cackled at the absurdity of their neck chips, which made any kind of fighting, even on purpose, completely forbidden. They try to break the rules or take it out, a heart-stopping shock will blast through their body. He's going to have to figure out how to fight without leaning on her like his mother did. Playing along, he acts like a toddler asking for milk, but the deadly move sends him flying right away. He gently bumps into Lang again, giving him the perfect chance to get to know him better and ask around. The big guy, who took his friendliness the wrong way, tells him he's already got a boyfriend. Ash tries to make things clear, but the confusion only gets worse. Even though he's a good guy, the prisoner is so loyal to his partner that he can't doubt him. They move forward to the boy's question, but even though Ash still messed up by flirting, he has to stop the chat and ask how to fight in the prison. Lang's face changed as he said he'd finally found the right person if they wanted to use some muscles. He belongs to the Deathmatch Society, a group allowed to temporarily lift the chip rules. Ash, stunned by the news, can't help but wonder if the warden truly means for them to fight until one of them dies. Even if someone dies in the ring, the fighter isn't a murderer. Next to the arena stood a healing room where anyone brought in within 5 minutes could be saved. The prison doesn't care if you die. While Lang is still talking, he suddenly realizes the boy is the leader of the Pillar's cult. He gets sidetracked once more, chatting about how much he likes the cult. Back to the main point, he admits that since the 15th is almost here, his excitement to join the group makes perfect sense. If the rookie looked completely lost, the veteran stepped in to explain what the date really meant. Everyone in the prison is on death row, and they live in luxury because their only end is absolute death, and while Ash had expected it, hearing it confirmed freezes his body in shock. The Moon Judgment is a hit show that earns massive money whenever it airs on the 1st and 15th of every month. In short, people love to watch people get executed. He drops to his knees in shock, but then his face lights up when he learns there is a way to get out. Every prisoner begins with 50 points, but they lose 10 points every month. When someone runs out of points, they aren't punished, but the lower their score gets, the closer they stand to being judged, which is how participation is decided. You can earn points in many ways, but the simplest path is to create real value. Using what they know best, they each find a way to give back to the prison. That being said, most of the prisoners are just killers with no special skills to use. In this deadly game, everyone bets their score until only one champion remains with all the points. Before taking the stage, almost all of them have to put on a layer of makeup. As he speaks, Lang licks his milk glass to show he's still ready to join the group despite what the boy just heard. And so he was guided into the arena to see the vast space. The very first game asks for just 1 point to bet on, but every match after that costs a little more. It starts with a slow crawl, but the pressure builds, so everyone uses the early fights to spot weaknesses. And with the big judgment day almost here, the place is going to be packed. As they walk through the darkness, he asks Ash if he wants to buy some meat. The meat usually slips off the arena, which is just one way players can spend their bonus points. With a sneer, they step into the hall, where Lang is hailed as the gourmet, and they mock the boy at his side by asking if he's the new boyfriend. But when someone insults his relationship, the man gets angry and threatens them with punishment. It works, the troublemakers back away, and finally Ash gets his official introduction. He grabbed a random victim to tease, only to quickly realize this guy named Lang must be famous around here. While Tiger and Rutger fought elsewhere, an old man stood in the middle of the arena taking heavy hits from a large orc who had made the mistake of fighting him after not battling in a long time. Because Tiger was betting so much, the match had to end sooner or later anyway. Rut's exhausted body gets battered until he even loses a tusk. The man lifts his arms and rains down a furious storm of punches on his foe's face. Even though it was clear who would win, the match wouldn't stop until the very end. Since the air barrier hasn't lifted yet, the fight is still going on. This madness won't end until someone dies or passes out completely. In a place where you never give up, you must keep pounding your enemy until they break. Too many overconfident fools have met their end against opponents who were just looking for an easy victory. After all, this deathmatch is really just a way to move points to someone who deserves them more. And while Ash thinks about that, he also notices that the money wagered by the fighters isn't the same. This is normal because the rules say prisoners must bet a little more than they did in their last game. Having fought in 34 battles, the Tiger is now betting 35. On the other side, Rutger has fought 10 times, yet he only has 5 points left to show for it all. It's always bad luck for him because he keeps running into people he simply can't defeat. While they talk, the barrier fades away and the orc drops to the ground. And as soon as the game is done, the medical team rushes out and hauls the injured player into the infirmary for help. The Tiger limped back, pretending to be weak after giving his opponent a real workout. Even the Sword Maiden can't deny the old man's power and asks just how strong he is. Some say mana remains forbidden in the arena, but you're free to use your physical strikes. When their magic is locked away, most sorcerers in that world are just like regular folks. However, a rare few are known as body sorcerers who sharpen their bodies and skills, and among them, one special kind changes their form so perfectly that their upgrades never wear off. Take Tiger for instance, a sorcerer known as a masochist. They told Ash to jump right into the arena since he was already standing there. The Sword Maiden tells him to choose a fighter who uses his bare fists and insists he do the same. After all, he's too weak to hold a weapon for long, so he turns and asks if he can face someone without any weapons. The shadowy stranger beams with joy, for he has finally found the exact kind of person he was looking for. Ash admits he's only betting 1 point, so there's not much point in praying for him. Luckily, the prisoner doesn't mind and offers to give him some points of his own. Just then, Igor steps into the light, boasting that his fists are as weak as his own words, and as he prepares for the match, the crowd's noise makes Ash realize the fight won't be easy, especially since Igor, the leader of the Four Pillars cult, claims it will be fair even though the cheers suggest he won't play it straight. So Ash remembers Sword Maiden's advice to never agree to anything Igor offers, but the Sword Maiden just laughs in his face at his useless dreams. He kept saying he wouldn't accept anything, yet there he was, stepping willingly into the ring after Igor's challenge. Knowing he made a stupid mistake by accepting the match, he shakes with fear as he steps forward. He didn't know why, but the moment he looked at the enemy, he knew fighting was the only way out. He tumbled into the succubus's trap so fast that the idea of refusing never even crossed his mind. The very instant he was won over, the thought seized his mind. The Sword Maiden insists he mustn't carelessly accept anyone's invitation. He is the last one to watch, so he must say a hard no to everything that comes his way. To him, the only path forward is to seize his fate with his own strength, so Ash, acting like a Dark Lord, turns away and rejects her warning just as the arena barrier activates and the battle begins. The chip's limiter snaps loose, feeling just like a heavy shackle breaking free. Igor doesn't waste a second, instead he dashes forward with his fists tightly clenched. The young man raises his hands to defend, but the veteran sweeps his legs, sending him face first to the floor before slamming a punch into his gut, making him vomit, only for the veteran to grin and tell him to toughen up as another hit knocks him to the side. The young lad stumbles through the dark, barely holding onto his balance, and fighting to stay awake. The moment Igor's body hits the wall, he doesn't stop, but instead pours out a continuous stream of blows. Ash keeps his arms raised like a shield, wondering just when the transfer of their power will finally take hold. As the pain mounts, he cries out to the Sword Maiden, begging her to take over. She casually tells him to fight back, noting that the lesson transfers the faster he gets beaten. The Sword Maiden pretends not to care, yet her eyes watch him closely. He looks weak and broken, but he keeps pushing himself to the edge without giving up, proving to her that even without the manual, he is strong at his core just as she expected him to be. Ash, worn down but never beaten, uses his inner strength to plan a bold comeback against his corporate masters. He clenches his jaw and throws a weak punch, but the opponent slips out of the way with ease. Igor finds it so cute that he hits his own face with barely any effort. The fight continues through a few more rounds, with the crowd roaring in delight as his famous moves crash into the enemy's fists. Tiger and Lang admit Tiger is strong but won't say who would win, while Ash looks utterly defeated and Igor asks if Ash knows how he keeps winning even though he isn't strong. They're both weak, but while the crowd is just livestock, Igor is a master who skins and butchers them. Races with stronger bodies have all fallen before him, defeated the instant they entered the ring, and as Ash jumps in with a desperate attempt to win, he already knows exactly what the weak boy will do, reading his moves like an open book to land a perfect counterattack. The boy's thoughts flooded his mind so clearly he could see them right in front of his eyes. Like a hungry lamb waiting to be cooked, the only thing left was to eat up his weak opponents. Igor grins with confidence, slips out of the way once more, and drives his elbow down to knock him out cold. To his surprise, Ash jumps out of the way and rushes forward to hit back. The veteran leaped away instantly, feeling a sudden danger he hadn't seen coming. It was a clear sign that things were going wrong. Now that playing around is over, he has to knock him out. While the crowd went wild and shouted for the blonde veteran to bring a better weapon to slice up his foes next time, Lang warns that the truth is far from what they expect as they watch Igor's perfect punches turn into misses while Ash fights with surprising strength, leading Tiger to admit that the boy's previous weakness was real because his body hasn't yet been hardened by real battle. Lang knows this is the one who saved him, and in just a few minutes, he's already fighting like a pro. The wrong person in the wrong spot, waking up the wrong talent. It was truly a shame. For the first time since they began, the cult leader had finally put up a fight against the beauty beast. The sword maiden smiled, knowing the fight was finally over. Every age has its own special story, and now instead of fighting for new lands, people do something different. Instead, the theme of this age was sophisticated domination. In a world where your fate is chosen the day you're born, the sorcerers who wield the power of the mind are the apex predators at the top of the food chain. Even the ruling clans are afraid of them, and the common folk are kept in the dark about their true power. But thanks to luck, Igor found the perfect way to teach himself and became a psyche sorcerer. On top of that, he already had the base magic spirit contract and made his word the law. So long as those rules hold true, his power becomes unstoppable. He will rule with an iron fist even inside the walls of prison. With this power, he rules over everyone around him, and even after losing a deadly fight, they keep challenging him until they have no points left. But now, the young man standing before him has completely changed. From a quiet creature waiting to die, he became a loud one still waiting for it, and with a smile, Igor admits he underestimated him. His mind learns fast enough to change his future, but his body is weak. Once this match is over, he won't fight him again, and Ash will never get another chance to challenge him. True power isn't just knowing the rules, it's using them to control everything. That is the big gap between the one who rules and the one who follows. Ash ignores his words and tells him not to cover his face. Igor is stunned by the surprising words and told that his face is so perfect he could look at it for hours. That one thought fills his mind, and since it's the first time he's ever heard such honest praise, he can't help but lower his hands. A solid punch hit him right on the chin, sending him flying to the floor and ending the match instantly. After Ash was declared the winner, the rush faded and he collapsed from exhaustion, his first taste of fighting leaving him in pain and unable to endure it. He finally realizes that the deathmatch is just a cruel game where prisoners are turned into empty shells for rich people to watch. They are all stuck with no way out, waiting to face either the final judgment or a deadly battle. His sensible side suddenly chimed in, pointing out that breaking the rules makes sense for those trapped in a broken system, and if he weren't there to see it, he'd be clapping for the very cage he's stuck in. Talking to himself, he suddenly notices the pain in his body has vanished. Suddenly, a voice calls out to him, telling him to go hunt for dinner if he's awake and feeling strong. Ash wakes up with bulging eyes in shock to see a plague doctor who, despite Ash's scary reaction, insists they treated him well and confirms he is just a healer, so Ash jokingly asks for plastic surgery to look handsome before they chat some more. To his shock, the doctor eagerly presents a whole list of ways to make his wish come true. Ash, shaking with fear from the crowd's wild reaction, refuses because he has no money, but they insist they want him, not his cash, leaving an uncomfortable quiet after his confession. He pretends they aren't close friends, but the masked stranger explains they need the boy's body for surgery and are even willing to pay for the chance to operate. They try to convince him of how lucky he is to have such a talented expert working on his case for free. He knows that most free things come with a heavy price later on. Finally, the doctor is forced to admit that their surgeries carry a small risk. To a naive person, it might look harmless, but Ash knows the hidden dangers of those words, so he makes the healer spell out every risk. There is a medicine born from spirits that can grant any power to a body as long as it holds moisture. While hydrotherapy is the go-to treatment for healing, it often lets mistakes happen and allows things to grow back. Still, that spirit can grow stronger with practice and get faster the longer you keep at it. This prison is the perfect place to become a doctor, because every day someone inside is dying and needs your help. Again, the prisoners are treated like tools to teach the healers new skills. That means treatment costs nothing in points, so it's still fair and not too harsh to use. Ash scolds the healer for his dark, scary-looking clothes, but they're actually a safety trick that keeps shocked patients from attacking him if he makes a mistake. Although the rule was meant to make doctors and patients get along better, the numbers show that surgeries are very likely to go wrong. Frustrated and angry, the young man shouts at the doctor and throws out bitter accusations. They feel the sting of the words, but they quietly say it wasn't their fault. Tears stream down their faces as they struggle to tell their side of the story. Ash leans in and asks if they know what their worst mistake is. It's just that the way they talk lacks that strong, firm, and confident edge. Because they sound so unsure of themselves, any side effects the patient feels will be blamed on them. He insists the doctors speak with confidence, even when healing isn't possible. That's just the start, and now they have to tell the worst patients to stop hurting themselves. As nobody is perfect, they will always look for a flaw to criticize the patient. Once these two tasks are finished, they can claim their authority and say that getting treated is a special privilege. He leans on what he's learned over the years, and now there's just one path ahead to take. No matter which surgery is performed, the doctor must insist they've already given it their very best. Fueled by hope, they begin shouting and chanting this new idea over and over. Ash feels good and trusts they'll handle the rest themselves. It's a shady trick in the corporate world, but it could just be the boost his healer needs to climb the ranks. Suddenly, the doctor shouted that he really didn't want the surgery and even called it rude to walk around with such a face. Ash isn't sure if he should feel proud, since his student was already putting what he taught him into action. He turns away with a grin, claiming his face isn't nearly as bad as the masked ones, but his frustration boils over into an argument where they insist they aren't ugly, sparking everyone's curiosity about what they really look like. For a heartbeat, it seemed they might take off their mask, but instead, they suddenly handed Ash a tag with the number 222, telling him to wear it always so everyone knows who his doctor is, which only made the young man wonder more about the doctor's face, while they ignored his doubt and insisted he carry the tag everywhere. So with that done, the patient is gently pushed back and asked to head to dinner before the cafeteria shuts down. Just before leaving for good, Ash turns back and asks the healer to save him an apple for the next time he visits. Just like that, they decide to grab a meal soon, which is actually a clever trick to get close to others by asking for small favors. He used this to earn extra rewards and honors in his former life. A doctor stepped out from behind the curtains and asked Toon 22 why they were still there. As the senior leader gets the full picture of what happened, he wonders if the subordinate really talked to the patient. It goes against the rules, because the human rights group can never find out what is going on. With that, 222 bolts away, remembering they can't even be there without their boss. The senior stepped up to show who was in charge and got them settled into their spots. It's true they're there because of who they know, and that fact can always be used to criticize them. They suddenly remember Ash, who is healing faster than everyone else, and they can't wait to kick him again, even though he hoped for safety after all that struggle, only to find that nothing has really changed. Even though he earned 45 points in the match, he still faces judgment in a few days like every other prisoner, but honestly, his chances of survival aren't bad since he's not the only one who wants to fight him, so Lang asks the young man if he's ready to accept the challenge. That was the true reason he stood there waiting for the boy in the cafeteria. The opponent plans to wager 36 points, a bold move since seasoned players rarely take on beginners. His name is Varkas, yet no one has ever heard of him. Suddenly Lang speaks a name, and Ash tilts his head in silence while the veteran watches, only to brush it off as a thought of someone he knows. They then talk about his new enemy's weapon, a simple sword. When he hears about the blade, his eyes snap up to the sword maiden, though not for the reasons you might expect. She catches him peeking and urges him to speak his thoughts out loud. Ash wonders if he can reach out to her just as easily as she reaches out to him. She didn't have the patience to play with him, yet her influence steered his very next words. He orders Lang to pass the message to Vargas to wipe his neck and wait until tomorrow. With that, the two prisoners go their separate ways, as Lang heads off to see his boyfriend. It feels strange that he's walking straight toward the deathmatch arena instead of a couple's room. The sword maiden diverts his gaze and gestures for him to head back to his room. After all, they'll be busy exploring a world he has never known. Even though her words hurt his feelings, he turns red and happily runs straight to her. Meanwhile, inside the deathmatch arena, a truly horrific scene was unfolding. Lang says Ash took up the challenge not for the name, but simply because he's dying to have a sword fight. Varkas says he'll pay him back soon, but the bald prisoner insists he can settle it right now by explaining why he suddenly cares about the boy and revealing who Silent is. Lang keeps ripping through the dead fighter and insists he'd rather stay away from big bosses. While he munches on the meat, he remarks that Ash looks far more like a harmless boy than the leader of a cult. Varkas warns that anyone who walks the prison walls is no longer innocent. In the shadowy corridor, Varkas tells Ash that he's already accepted the deadly challenge. The guard warns him to hurt the boy so badly that even a two-winged healer won't be able to fix him. As long as the elf prisoner dies tomorrow, he'll be free, but Silent refuses to let him and the child he protects stay in the city, stating he can't breathe the same air as that man. He's forced to move forward as the guard treats him like a criminal once more. The elf sentenced to death gets yelled at for being too proud and acting like a noble. Meanwhile, Ash didn't know this and was chatting with the Sword Maiden, who said the good news was that the government would provide housing for life. The bad news is that his head could be cut off at any moment. Even a mighty warrior like Tiger is helpless because of the chip in his neck. Even if he manages to run away from the prison, the chip will still find him and force him to do whatever they want. Unfortunately, the bad thing has fused with his bones so deep that carving it out is impossible. So he asks if magic can remove it, and she smiles eerily to say there are plenty of ways. The one he's most likely to grab is a special miracle of sword magic. A defensive move that cleanses weird conditions and can rip the chip out of his body in a heartbeat. To cast miracles, he must gather magic spirits first, and he has 4 ways to get them. But the chip stops him from naturally connecting with the secret world, forcing him to choose between his own power and the device. 2 trades with everyone else, yet he has no gift to give back. 3 is slaughtering the owner and ripping the spirit from him, but we can't do that. His final and only hope is to dive straight into the arcane realm and hunt down a wild spirit. The only way inside is to borrow a spirit's power to slip his mind into the realm, which sounds like a fresh graduate trying to get a job that demands 3 years of experience. But the Sword Maiden stops his panic by explaining he doesn't need to use his own spirit for this trick. He turns around with hope, and she reminds him that because they bonded through the manual, she already wields the sword spirit and can easily step into the realm to take him with her. Confused, he quickly flips through the manual to see if the feature actually exists. To his surprise, he found a hidden extra function waiting to be discovered. He ticks the boxes and hits the button to show he's all set. For a long time, nothing moves, and he watches Sword Maiden smiling as he tells her to just hurry up and take it, so she goes off to get ready while he keeps waiting even longer. The Sword Maiden sneered at him, telling him he'd never get what she was getting ready to do. With that, she vanishes, leaving him to stand all by himself in his empty room. Ash collapsed onto his bed, utterly drained after a day that had worn him down to the bone. Meanwhile, 3 hours away in the game, Stellaris, the girls' dorm stood quiet. Sonia's real body was only just finishing up her training with Ingrid. Her days were packed with advanced classes and sparring, while her nights were spent training hard to master the wave sword magic. She gets personal training from Professor T, a legendary swordmaster who might soon grow 4 wings, and while she offers to recommend Ingrid, she insists on earning her own victories. Even though Sonia wouldn't have dared to refuse Felix's challenge without his help, the professor has already signed her up for the Truth University tournament and promised to use his own facilities for it. The news grabs Adele's attention, and she asks to meet the handsome students, while she tells the still and quiet Lois that she will never forget her roommates. As the girl shakes from their constant teasing, she squeezes her book tight in her hands. It was clear she was at the edge of breaking and about to explode. To their surprise, she finally calms down and gets her act together after a bit. Not happy with how things went, the Sword Maiden turns away and heads to the mediation room. With her friend staying behind, Adele looks at Lois with worry. She tries to comfort her by saying there is no reason to treat that arrogant country bumpkin with any respect. But the girl was smart enough to admit she had lost this time. And Sonia has reached a high point where she must look up, yet she won't let this keep her bowed down after graduation. For now, we didn't know how to deal with it. Adele steps back with a worried look, choosing to give her friend some room. Meanwhile, Sonia stepped into the special hall built for students studying magic, and once her identity was checked, she was told to walk straight through the wall. She did exactly what she was told and walked right through without any trouble, but once she was inside the building, something magical made everyone's minds move faster, and the person watching her had been right there with her the whole time. Since he's still with her late at night, he tries to charge her for overtime pay, but since she's broke, he makes her pay by turning the girl into his employee. She's still an unpaid intern at the academy because she hasn't graduated yet. Although he says it, he clearly put in all that hard work to train her with one goal in mind, to get even more out of it. Suddenly, his voice turns grave as he tells her the only thing she must do is survive. He just laughs it off as a joke, admits he's too weak to enter the arcane realm alone, and needs her to lead the way, so she steps through the locked door into a peaceful world beneath the starry night. She sits on the grass, closes her eyes, and calls upon the sword spirit. The bond snaps shut, the gates swing wide, and she tumbles straight into the magical world. She stretches her hand out and shouts at the watcher, scared, but he promises her he is right beside her. In the end, a special fate binds them together, and when she finds herself on a boat, she is shocked to see him in real life, just as he is stunned to see her too. For the very first time, the two step into the spirit realm and float upon the endless sea of knowledge. Ash wore his character's clothes with delight, while Sonia talked about how the first stop in the arcane realm is that body of water. She didn't understand why there was a boat when their lesson said everyone should arrive on foot. This means you can't rely on any outside help at all. She's even heard that folks sometimes soak right in the water, leaving them with no choice but to swim. Then Ash confidently explains that her soul was split in half, with one part becoming a boat and the other a human body. When she asked how he could prove it, he told her to swim away from the boat, but she couldn't because she was tied up. She does exactly what she's told, returns a little while later, and totally shuts down his accusations. The observer's error makes her smirk, but she soon realizes his true intent as she catches him staring at her soaking wet form. Even though he claimed it was just a test, the trick still landed him a hard punch to the head. He thinks the boat isn't important, but Sonia says it's a big deal because drowning is how most sorcerers die. As a sorcerer grows, the magic world becomes his everything, and many spend their whole lives just exploring it. But this quest has swallowed many greedy hearts beneath the waves. If you died there, your mind would need 3 whole days to heal before you could function normally. When a spirit takes a hard hit, the stronger it is, the worse the wound becomes. New sorcerers can learn in just 3 days, but learning with silver takes at least 15 days, while mastering with gold ranks up over months. Meanwhile, the sanctuary and its legendary sorcerers spend years growing. If someone steps into the realm, their growth shrinks by 90%, so there are different ways to handle it. Some players play it safe and grow slowly, while others bet everything to reach the top, knowing that a single loss could ruin them forever, which makes having a boat feel like an unfair advantage. A thought struck him, and he wondered if the sorcerer's manual held the answer. Everything else is turned off, yet he seems to have the special power to steer the boat. The window kindly gives him a quick lesson, but the car suddenly shakes and he tells Sonia to stop paddling so he can take control. She was caught off guard when he proved he actually knew his way around the realm. The observer sighs in disbelief, thinking the request to read the tutorial is just a joke. After all, even Till didn't have a guide to show him the way. In the arcane, everyone is lost and hunting for answers just like everyone else. But always remember, don't stay in the same spot for too long. When they do this, their real body thinks they've died and their heart stops. He can't believe she is so scared of dying, especially since he thought she would wildly chase after thrill. Back when she had everything to lose, Sonia truly was just like that. Now she's a gifted young talent who will surely be a top player in 20 years, and maybe even reach the very highest ranks by 40. Choosing gold would make her a noble lady, but since she wants to stay safe rather than shake the world, she paddles toward the lucky shallow white mist. Just then, the boat shot forward, spun quickly, and did exactly what Ash wanted. With a blank expression, he admits he's the one who brought the vehicle and only just figured out that he can actually control it. Before she could argue, the mist sparkled against her skin, and with eyes suddenly clear, she saw sword moves dancing in her mind. A pure wave of sword magic surged through her body as they raced forward. So long as you stay in the realm, sorcerers will automatically soak up new knowledge, and shrink down into a silver magical force that becomes the mark of a one-winged sorcerer's power. A feather sprouted on her back as she drank in a flood of power, while Ash watched the glowing map with the awkward grin of a clown passing notes. There he spots a screen that shows their location and tells him about different parts of the realm. Some signs mean nothing, others warn of trouble, but luckily, there's also a clear sign telling them where to go. He guides the boat forward, and the moment they reach the zone, Sonia notices a tiny island waiting for them through the fog. Her eyes snapped open in surprise, realizing she was back in the place where the observer tested her during her dream. She misunderstands and assumes he's doing it on purpose, so she calls him a mysterious expert. The moment they step onto the shore, she walks away just as the fog vanishes. Standing before them was a man with a gun who claimed it fired faster than 7 steps. In just 7 steps, the gun fires quickly and hits its mark. He lines up his shot the moment they step into range, tossing Ash's plea to talk it over right into the wind. As the gunpowder blasts, he barely slips away to dodge a direct hit. The bullet struck his leg, but the wound wasn't nearly as deep as it looked. As he looks closer, he sees his body and colors fading, realizing that every hit steals energy directly from his real self. Even as he tried to make sense of it all, Sonia raced forward. The man lined up his shot, itching to fire another bullet at them. As he fired with a loud cry, the swordswoman called upon her magic to swing her blade downward, slicing the bullet clean in half and throwing the enemy off balance. Before Ash could catch his breath, he lunged forward and held the whole guy still, so he couldn't move. Now she can sprint forward and drive her blade right into the heart of his soul. The shooter vanishes in a cloud of smoke, and the two take a deep breath, happy to have won this sudden fight. They began to fight but saw something rising from where the enemy stood. Even though he's lost, Sonia knows right away what it is. That island is an old legacy in the realm, and the book holds the secrets of the gun sorcerer's magic. He's totally surprised to find another manual this easy. A boy shoots arrows that hit every small, fast, and nimble creature in the wild. Running home with his dad after a great hunt, he happily carried his prize. Suddenly, they spot a villager with their chest blown wide open. Far away, a terrifying crowd of monsters marched forward, and among them, one orc carried the smoking gun that had killed the villager. The boy and his father pulled their bows and fired back, but their weak arrows just bounced off the enemy's metal armor, leaving the monsters free to shoot up the city and take it over completely. But father drags the boy all the way to safety before they can rest. But the moment he thought he was safe, his legs gave out and he hit the ground, dead. The boy stared as his parent took their last breath, then filled with rage he donned the hat, and tears streaming down his face, waited for a target. An orc gunman plowed through the tall grass until an arrow struck his head and ended his life. The boy grabbed the dead monster's gun and set out to seek revenge. A few enemies fell before they could realize who was there, but even the foolish monsters couldn't stand up to a trained sharpshooter, no matter how strange his weapon looked. He takes them down one by one, slipping past their strikes and sending them crashing into the traps he set for them. First, he wiped out the entire horde that had attacked his village, and soon there was a pile of many dead bodies. Time moves on, and he grows gray, yet his purpose remains unchanged. At one point, he spots a flyer for an orc cleanup crew and decides to join their team. And so, he spent decades hunting down and killing the race that stole his family, earned a medal for his bravery, then retired to sit in a rocking chair with his gun, guarding the land he fought to protect, before taking a drink and shooting a rabid wolf. One more drink and a person falls, then another one, and then another. After a while, he walked into his home with a smoking gun and pressed the barrel against his lover's head. She gazed at him with deep sadness, but her eyes widened in shock as he hit the ground and passed away, while Ash looked at the book's owner and Sonia was amazed that he had finished the whole thing. On the last page, he found the medal that suddenly released a blue spirit, the rapid-fire type that lets him shoot twice in a row with better reach and precision. His screen was showing him everything, even popping up a little box to help. Since he could recharge his currency, he was asked if he wanted to swap it for points. His eyes sparkled with excitement as he saw just how amazing what he had could become. Holding the rare magic spirit he'd found, he suddenly woke up and nervously asked the sword maiden if she wanted it, even though it wasn't a special sword spirit and would just be a waste of her money to take. He is so confused that he can't figure out how money is involved in this. She suspects he's making fun of her poverty, since the only way he could know such simple things is if he's wealthy and never worried about feeding magic spirits. She kindly tells him that spirits must be fed coins to survive, for without this payment they will starve and fade away, making money the easiest meal since other options are far too much trouble. But since just having these things drains a sorcerer's mind every moment, he learns that it's better to have fewer high-quality ones than many. The spirits are split into 4 groups, the gun, sword, masochist, and fist factions, each with their own special rules. If you don't meet the strict rules, you can use these general spirits, which almost anyone can handle. A sorcerer's collection of spells is usually a mix of powerful special ones and everyday useful ones. And she's not looking for a ghost of the past that can't even buy lunch at school. Rapid fire first appeared 100 years ago, and today's pistols can blast 7 bullets in just 1 second. He was allowed to take it, so he traded the metal off his arm, which then vanished, and he eagerly checked his mind screen to see he had earned 10 points. But the score wasn't enough for a draw, so they needed another one-winged spirit to help them tie the game. Spirits possess amazing powers, but the cost to summon them is as low as a minimum wage job. Then he looks down and sees the notebook he is holding. And it's a sorcerer's manual that acts like a diary, writing up the whole of your life. When they pass away, their spirit drifts back to the magical realm as a shadow, and all the memories of their life get squeezed into one small book. It can soak up like metal and give the owner a random skill. After taking the spirit, he hands her the book, but she turns it away. These words twist the mind, so you can only read the instructions that match what you already believe. If reading feels easy on your eyes, then it's safe to dive right in. Most ordinary sorcerers are lucky to pick up just 2 out of 10 manuals they stumble upon. But how does he pull it off right away? Maybe his mind is open or his rules are loose, but either way, he reads the book and instantly learns how to counter the enemy's tricks. Just then, the ground beneath them started to shake. The Legacy Island finally sank beneath the waves like so many others before it, only after sorcerers had found it. As soon as a legend is claimed, the island slips back down into the dark ocean. In the mysterious arcane, anything can happen as they face countless legends from before, knowing their own path will remain for centuries and challenge future explorers who stumble upon their marks. She wonders if he lived a life he'd be proud to show his future grandchildren. Their calm moment ends when a monster bursts from the sea, flips their boat, and blasts them with water. But Sonia tells him to steer away, and thanks to his powers they managed to escape the dangerous waters. Soon they stumbled into a safe spot and started wondering if the enemy was right behind them. They started arguing and blaming each other, even though they had both chosen to head into this spot after an hour of useless sailing. She can't fathom why he hasn't taken out the enemy sooner, but if she's too weak to do it, who else could? His words make her realize he's weaker than she thought, yet she holds back her urge for revenge because she knows he still holds power over her. Even T has never noticed him, yet he stands there with undeniable power and importance. In a world where every wizard is the same, he is the one who can spot the dangers nobody else can see. So the final watcher stands above everyone else, and she knows she can't waste that special bond on revenge. She was lucky to be picked by him, but if he realizes she's just ordinary, he might toss her overboard without even thinking twice. So why would he bother asking such silly questions? Sonia gets it wrong, believing he's pretending to be weak while secretly hiding a real danger. To show she's right, Ash asks simple questions like just what kind of beast they ran into. She goes along with it and describes the species that is the most common in the arcane realm. Thanks to her clear explanation, he finally grasps the true nature of that strange dimension. Killing a beast in the arcane releases its bottled magic soul, and the gear it drops also gains new upgrades. For instance, sorcerers in the real world can build an entirely new system of knowledge and call forth fresh magic spirits into existence. While the arcane can create spirits by slaying knowledge beasts, going even crazier with the system lets new species pop up and makes the realm teem with life. Basically, whether you're in the real world or the realm, everyone has an equal shot at getting results. Ash compares the new world to his old one, arguing that no one can truly retire because everyone is forced to keep working like an employee, but he feels ready to thrive here just like he did before. Mia warns him that he can't see through the fog, but she knows just how dangerous it is. She sighed in disappointment, telling him he probably couldn't even find the golden fish, and when he asked what it was, she thought he was just being silly and pretending not to know. She forces on a fake grin and tells the tale of a sea beast that carries the floating continent where two-winged sorcerers travel. They say the tiniest mark on its skin is as big as a bustling city with 1 million people. Even though it's huge, only a lucky few ever find it and go on to become legends, without a single exception. He can't stop wondering what the big deal is about finding it, until someone tells him it turns him into a two-winged wizard instantly, which is truly amazing. When a one-winger pushes their mana to its absolute limit, they stop gaining any new power from the sea of knowledge. To go deeper, they must learn to call forth a two-winged spirit that will unlock the gate to the time continent, where they can soak up more magic power and grow their second wing. The first wing shines silver, while the second glows gold, and since the gate of truth can only be opened by a spirit you yourself have summoned, there is no room for stealing. Finding the golden fish is like taking a secret shortcut, but really, it's a stowaway sneaking up from a lower level to a higher one. She wonders why he wants so much when he can't find anything anyway. But then he suddenly perks up not because he found a fish or monster, but because the screen welcomes them to a golden part of the map called Adventure Island, a safe place with no dangers where wild spirits play happily and drool over the endless choices. So Sonia asks Ash what he is waiting for. It was a buffet, where the only job they had was to catch the food. While spirits fled in panic, the two humans ran through them and managed to grab a few before they disappeared. The first was a one-eyed spirit that could make a copy of anyone. Second is a water spirit that blasts powerful high-speed jets capable of crushing anything they hit. Ash looked down at the spirit on his palm, the very power he needed to pull the chip from his neck. When Sonia sees him, she offers to carry the heavy bag herself, promising that her university will pay a high price for it. He still believes she is just a virtual character and has no idea why she needs money. No matter what, the two finished their first trip through the strange magical world, and when they said goodbye, the sword maiden checked his eyes to show him she was safe from his mind-reading powers in that place. Once they are back in the real world, he will be able to realize that while the original spirit is rare and precious, the substitute one is actually even more valuable, a truth she didn't want him to know. It's a powerful spirit that naturally stands above the more picky ones, which is why she kept that secret from him. She couldn't make out his face clearly, but saw how badly he wanted it, so she felt smug about sharing the torrent to help him feel good about taking the substitute. So when they wake up and he reads her mind, he'll instantly see her plan. Even if it doesn't change him much, her small gift should make him like her just a little more. Sonia laughed with pure joy, thrilled by the clever plan she had just come up with. Down in the field beneath the stars, she shouted at the observer, but he didn't answer her at all. Days went by as she kept searching for him, hoping her plan would finally come true. But he never showed up, and she flew into a rage when he vanished with the prize, having walked right out of the sweet trap she had set. And as Sonia angrily cursed the observer who left her hanging, she was startled when someone greeted her with a good morning. Couldn't help but beam with excitement the moment she stepped into the arcane for the very first time. She warmly replies to the senior, someone she's come to know through Felix. They're alike because they are both huntresses ready to do anything just to reach higher. After the girl set a perfect trap for her boyfriend, a talented school junior showed up just to lure him in. No wonder she's so mean to her, especially since Cecilia backed away and covered her nose, which made Sonia furious because she knows she doesn't really smell that bad. Feeling annoyed, she tries to throw a weak and silly insult, but the senior simply shows her a tiny spirit that looks like a baby holding onto its clothes. Finding this treasure means your strength will grow if you find the perfect spirit to match it. You can even become an assassin swordsman, with a deadly skill that no other faction can ever hope to match. Even though it's precious, she's still determined to hand it over to her boyfriend as a present. Sonia sees her smug grin and realizes she must have looked just as pleased with herself last night. Cecilia looks at her poor family and says she will be strong enough to help them soon. She feels so personally attacked that she's convinced her own family is the reason her dreams are coming true. Her eyes flash with dark anger for a second, but she quickly forces a smile and accepts the rude remarks. The arrogant woman is surprised, not expecting her to smile and accept the offensive.